I mean, there's just so much information there. But we had to try to condense it a little bit. And the idea is not for you to become an expert at these cults or at these false religions. It's for you to have a working knowledge so that you know how to respond when they come and say something to you, and you might be able to minister to loved ones that way. But in one of his sermons, I mean, the phraseology that he uses, Sister Swagger, he talks about different emblems that are used in Freemasonry, and he ties it to Christianity. And he says, we're a secret society, so were they a secret society. You know, and he goes on and says, you can't tell who we are unless you come to us and talk to us. You can't tell who they are unless you do the handshake. And so there's so many things. And at one point, and I saw the quote and then I lost it. Went to try to find it. I couldn't find it. And he also talked about Paul being a 33rd degree Freemason. And anybody who is a Freemason, you would understand that they have attributed to St. John.
St. John is a big deal in Freemasonry.
St. John is a very big thing.
Okay, question. Will the Jehovah's Witnesses pledge allegiance to the American flag?
Not at all. Not at all. We had talked about that. They would not pledge to the American flag. They will not serve in the military. They will not stand up for the national anthem. They will not put their hand over their heart. The reason is they say they are of a kingdom that is not of this earth. They say that pledging allegiance to the flag is to attribute salvation to the flag. And nobody I know has ever done that, has ever attributed salvation to the flag. All right, we're going to continue with this. So we see that the symbol, definitely, we see the influence of Freemasonry on that. And then after that, after his death, then that symbol was then later removed. All right, now the new leader. We got a new leader, but same problems. The major problem that we had with Charles Taze Russell was that he was not truthful. He lied under oath. He lied about his knowledge of the Bible. He lied about the languages. But not only that, he had many dates that he had set forth that were false as to the return of Christ. So Charles Taze Russell dies, and then after that he's replaced by Judge Franklin Rutherford. Now, Judge Rutherford was not a judge. He was never a judge. He was a lawyer. Now, what gives a lawyer the right to use the term judge? I don't know. Maybe it was his nickname. I don't know. But he does go by that term, Judge Rutherford. And he was a legal counsel for the Watchtower Society, and he became the president over that society. And he probably was the best choice after that. Now, I want to talk about something that they've tried to erase from their memory, but it's there in history. And that is a place called Beth Sarim, the House of Princes. And this is a mansion. Now, to us today, it does not look like that much of a mansion. But you've got to understand, in the 20s and 30s, that this was a very expensive house. It's a 10-bedroom, by the way. It's a 10-bedroom house. This picture here got off the internet, and judging by that car, it's probably in the late 70s. That looks like an old Ford. But this is what the house looks like. You can drive there today and have a look at it. To me, why would you want to? But anyways.
What's it used for today?
It's a residential home right now.
Okay. All right.
In 1918, the Watchtower publication began predicting under the direction of Rutherford, the Old Testament patriarchs or princes would be resurrected back to earthly life in 1925. So they prophesied that such people as Abraham, as David, who were some of the other ones? We have them listed later on. Jacob, that they were going to come back to earth in a physical body and get ready for the Battle of Armageddon. It was thought that these princes would become Earth's new leaders and that the resurrection would prelude the inauguration of the new earthly society in the abolition of death. Now, these are the quotes you can see underneath. A question concerning Ezekiel's Temple, Watchtower, June 15, 1918. J.F. Rutherford, 1920. Millions now live, will never die, Watchtower, page 8990. And then it goes on to some more here.
Well, I guess the 10-bedroom home was to have a room for each one of these prophets.
Exactly, because they needed to live in a place that was worthy of them. Now, this is another quote. This is from Judge Rutherford himself, 1924, A Desirable Government, Watchtower, page 30. It had previously been taught that these individuals were to be raised shortly after 1914. 1914 was when the Jesus Christ was supposed to come back invisibly to the society. These princes would use Jerusalem as their capital, with some of the princes being located in other principal parts of the earth. Next quote. The prince in authority at Jerusalem will give directions as to the carrying out of governmental affairs in different parts of the earth. With great improved broadcasting stations, we can expect Abraham from Mount Zion to direct the affairs of the whole earth. This is their revelation. Despite the failures of previous prophecies, Rutherford continued to preach their imminent return. Not the imminent return of Jesus Christ as we preach. We preach in the imminent return of Jesus, in the aspect of the rapture of the church. And yes, I do believe in the rapture of the church, a pre-trib rapture of the church. But they're talking about these saints coming back. These prophecies show, therefore, that Christ the King will make those faithful men the princes or visible rulers in all the earth. That means that soon you may expect to see Abraham, Enoch, Moses, David, and all of these other faithful men back on earth. And that's from J.F. Rutherford, 1932, which you need by Watchtower pages 8 to 10. This is their quotes. So Judge Rutherford's revelation, he felt they needed a home worthy of their position. So a mansion was purchased. In San Diego, and their names was placed on the deed. The deed was not in the Watchtower Bible and Tract. The deed was transferred to these saints of old. This is a quote directly from, this is from the deed itself. This is directly from the deed. David, who was once king over Israel, and Gideon, and Barak, and Samson, and Jephthah, and Joseph, formerly the ruler of Egypt, and Samuel the prophet, and other faithful men who were named with approval in the Bible at Hebrews, the 11th chapter. So these are the deeds. Their name is on the deed. If you can imagine buying a house, Sister Swagler, and then putting on the deed Jesus Christ, or putting on the deed David, or putting on the deed the Apostle Paul. First of all, I don't know today whether they'd be able to do the same thing. Most courts would say, no, I don't think we're going to play this game. This interview, what I'm going to read for you, is an interview with Judge Rutherford that appeared in the San Diego Sun, March 15, 1930. So these are documented proofs of the building, even though some of them say never existed. This is a question they pose. But how will you identify King David or any of the other representatives of God? Rutherford was asked. I thought all that out before I wrote the deed, the judge replied with a twinkle in his gray eyes. I realized the possibility of some old codger turning up bright and early some morning and declaring that he was David. The men whom I've designated to test the identity of these men are officers of my societies and have consecrated themselves to the Lord. They will be divinely authorized to know impostors from the real princes. So there's no way that they would know. There's no way that they would know. But again, how do they know about the 144,000? They know about the 144,000 by that inner witness. We have a soundbite we're going to show you. I want you to watch this on television.
1916, Charles Taze Russell died, sick, weary, and disappointed. A massive stone pyramid stands today at his gravesite as an embarrassing reminder of his false prophecies. Through hard-fisted, inside political manipulation, Joseph Franklin Rutherford, a Missouri lawyer who had given himself the title of judge, became the second president of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society in 1917. In 1918, Judge Rutherford's lecture, entitled Millions Now Living Will Never Die, was of a worldwide recruiting effort called the Millions Campaign. Not too surprisingly, it proclaimed the coming destruction of the existing world. It would happen soon, in 1925. In 1920, the Millions book was published. In it, Rutherford claimed the Bible proved that in 1925, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and other faithful men of old were to be resurrected, to rule henceforth as princes on the new paradise earth. Fully convinced that Rutherford's prophecy was true, many witnesses sold their homes and businesses and took to the road. Living in cars and trucks like itinerant peddlers, they spread the warning. As 1925 drew closer, some farmers even refused to plant crops because they believed the end was at hand. Once again, the Watchtower Society's prophecy had proven false. As Russell had done, Rutherford doggedly held to the story that the end was just around the corner. In 1929, the judge had this palatial mansion constructed. It was deeded to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, so they and other ancient worthies would have a place to live when they were resurrected. Located in an exclusive district of San Diego, it was given the name Beth Sarim, Hebrew for House of the Princes.
Isn't that interesting? And there we see
That's
the,
quite a house there.
yeah, the prophecies that he had were probably as detrimental to the Jehovah's Witness themselves as any of the prophecies that we saw from Charles Taze Russell. We saw in the video clip people selling everything they had. And you've got to understand that with the teachings of the Jehovah's Witness back then, the teaching was that there was no sense for a child, for a student to go into college. There was no sense for them to go further than just ordinary elementary school because Jesus was coming back. There was no sense for them to try to better educate themselves. There was no sense, there was no reason for them to go out and purchase land, go out and buy property to build a business on or anything like that. And as you saw, some of them even refused to plant grain because they were so sure of these prophecies. What happened when the prophecies did not come true? And obviously they did not come true. We're year 2012 right now. The millions of people that he said that would never die, the majority of them have passed away by now. Let's go on to a quote. This is from Time magazine, March 31st, 1930. Judge Joseph Frederick Rutherford, 60, lives in a 10-room Spanish mansion, number 4440 Brayburn Road, San Diego, California. Last week, he deeded number 4440 Brayburn Road and adjacent two-car garage and a pair of automobiles to King David, to Gideon, to Barak, Samson, Jephthah, Samuel, and sundry other mighties of ancient Palestine. This is recorded proof. This is another quote. This is from the San Diego Sun, January 9th, 1931. One of the oddest deeds ever recorded, Rutherford, president of the International Bible Students Association, which is another term for the Watchtower Bible Tract Society, has placed in trust a magnificent estate for ancient kings and prophets of Israel. The slayer of Goliath and his companions may occupy the 10-room modern home with its landscape gardens and patio as soon as their credentials are approved by Rutherford and officials of his societies divinely authorized to recognize them. In the two-car garage next door stands a new yellow 16-cylinder coupe. That's not going to be cheap. This is like almost a kind of a limo, which will be turned over to the rulers along with the personal property on the place. Everything will be theirs, the house, the land, the furnishing, and even the clothes if they need them, Judge Rutherford said. What will I do? Oh, don't worry about me. I'll manage somehow, the judge smiled. Well, he managed quite well living in his home.
Yes, he did.
He sure did, and he traveled a lot at the expense of people. The 7 famous men will not have long to rest at their San Diego estate because they soon will lead the forces of the Lord to vanquish the millions of Satan at the Battle of Armageddon, Rutherford believed. But they will win out. The Lord will punish the devil and will show the preachers and the politicians have been giving the people false counsel, Rutherford said confidently. Rutherford will sail Monday night for Europe, where he will speak before conventions in Berlin, Paris, and London. Now, you've got to understand the time frame of this. The time frame of this is right after the Great Depression. The Great Depression started, in the 20s and going into the mid-30s before they started to recover from this. Judge Rutherford lived in Beth Sarim the rest of his life. So he lived in this mansion the rest of his life. Great Depression in the 1930s, the majority of Jehovah's Witnesses had a hard time finding enough finances for food, for lodging, for clothes. And here was Judge Rutherford, their leader, living off the money that they would give to the Jehovah's Witnesses, to the Kingdom Hall, to the Watchtower Bible Tract Society, living off those finances, living in a mansion and being driven around by a chauffeur in a 16-cylinder coupe.